I made a bad decision concerning my son. Years have passed and he has still not forgiven me. Will he ever? How do I deal with the guilt? You have to forgive yourself first. If you've made a bad decision, you have some remorse in the mind, some regret, and this will chip away at your happiness. So you have to somehow forgive yourself. One way to think about this is that the decisions that we make at any given time are the best decisions that we can make at that time. They may not be perfect, but we tried our best, we did our best, and that's all we could have done in that situation. Sure, with the benefit of hindsight, we look back, oh, if only I did this, if only I did that. But this is pure fantasy. We just have to accept we tried, we didn't know, this is what happened, and forgive ourselves, knowing that our own actions were conditioned. We were a product of conditioning from our family, our environment, our society, and these are the things that led us to make those decisions. It doesn't mean that we aren't involved in our decision makings. It just allows us to understand why things go wrong in our lives sometimes. So forgive yourself. Reach out to your son and let him know that you still care, and try again. And if it doesn't work, it's okay, you tried your best. That's what I'd suggest. And good luck. What does it mean to be enlightened? Well, I wish I could tell you. What does one achieve? How does one achieve enlightenment? How does one know when they have become enlightened? What happens after you are enlightened? So, that's very good questions. What happens when you're enlightened is that you have three knowledges that are a deep insight into the true nature of reality. And you need to have a very powerful and refined mind to achieve these things. What happens is all the defilements, all the hindrances in the mind are suppressed, and all the enlightenment factors, things like joy, happiness, mindfulness, samadhi, and equanimity, all of these things are very powerful. And all of the hindrances, all of the defilements are burnt away, all of the good qualities, the enlightenment factors are strong and reach their full power and fruition. And then these three knowledges occur at the moment of enlightenment in sequence. So the first one is knowledge of past lives, all the past lives that you've lived. So when the Buddha attained enlightenment, the first thing he saw was all of these lives going way, 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 way back. He said there is no beginning to be discerned. And so this is a knowledge of the suffering that we have in our life. This is the Buddha's insight is the true depth of our suffering. So you think you've got problems in this life, wandering around, from job to job, from lover to lover to whatever. This is something that we've done life after life after life after life after life. And this is what the Buddha saw. So this is what he talks about in the first noble truth, the truth of suffering. So he says this is one of his enlightenment knowledges, the truth of suffering. These lives, countless tears from this wandering in samsara, this existence, going round and round and round in this cycle. This is the first knowledge. The second knowledge is the knowledge of karma, why this suffering occurs. So this is the cause of suffering. And so he looked back and he could see this is why certain lifetimes that he lived, when he did these certain actions, they had these certain results. And so when he did good actions, he could see this, they had good results. When he did bad actions, he had bad results. So this is how he understood the cause of suffering. And this is why those two methods of thought that we looked at today, they might seem pretty basic, wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts. But actually they're very profound, because when you see with that vision that he had, he could see exactly what actions would lead to good results and exactly what actions lead to bad results. And he was able to distinguish those, and he was able to tell us so that we, by paying some attention, could follow his path and reap good results of our own, hopefully leading to better destinations. So he said things like generosity, love, compassion. These were the kind of good actions that led to good results for us and good results for others. This is what he saw as the second insight knowledge of karma. And the third insight knowledge he had was knowledge and vision of release. So this means that he became aware of his enlightenment. So it's kind of like, I guess an easy way to describe it would be like a voice saying in your head, okay, you've done it now. And this is the knowledge of enlightenment. And the last question here is, what happens after you're enlightened? Well, you're pretty blissed out, I suppose. You don't have any defilements of the mind. You don't have any hindrances. So you just chill out and enjoy life, being happy and enjoying the pleasures of meditation. One way to test if a person is enlightened, and I've been doing this with various people I meet all my life, is to try to get them angry. So if you come across a person and they say that they're enlightened, see if you can make them a little bit angry, and then you'll know. Thank you for your stories and teachings. A longish observation and a short question. During walking meditation, I habitually labelled left, right, with an upward inflection on left and a downward inflection on right. I suppose this is like left, right, left, right. Similarly, in breath meditation, I tend to label in upwards in pitch and then downwards in out. I played during walking meditation with changing the inflections on the labels. I tried inflecting down on the left and up on right. This slowed me down and made the walking feel more grounded. If I inflected upwards on both left and right, the walking seemed more continuous and I walked faster. Question: have I noticed differences myself or others in meditation with how they pitch the labeling of their states? I think that it's interesting what you've been doing. You've become aware that you've got a certain habit and a certain practice. And what you've done is you've decided to disrupt that and try to change it up. And this is a useful thing to do, because habits are actually a great deadener to us in our practice. And if we keep on engaging in the same habits, we'll always pretty much generally get the same results. So it's good to mix things up. Ajahn Brahm says, why don't you try brushing your teeth with your left hand? And what you're feeling about being grounded is actually you're feeling more aware, more present, because you were consciously trying to change something. You're more engaged with the object of meditation. So it's good to do things like that. I reckon it's probably also good to just relax, and sometimes habit can be very comforting, but sometimes we need to challenge it. So just see how you go with that. And the purpose, of course, of all of this is just to lead to more peace and more quiet in the mind. So if we start analysing too much, we might be walking away from our meditation object and into speculation and all these kinds of things. Is travel good for the soul? I think so. Yes. Go on holiday. When meditating on a 10-day retreat as a beginner, my physical body disappeared and I was pure energy with no boundary. Can I explain this? Because I wasn't in your body at the time, I can only guess. But this is one of the experiences that many people have when they meditate. So you have this feeling of the body kind of fading away and the structure of the body, as you know it, dissolving, and you feel like you are pure energy. And so maybe this is a kind of insight into the energetic nature of our body, that we're vibrating atoms, that there's this constant change, this flux within the body. So you might have become aware of what's called the Vedanas, the feeling of the body without feeling the body, if you know what I mean. So there are very deep states of meditation that are able to be experienced. And the more and more you practice meditation, the more likely you're going to run into something wacky or mind-blowing, or both wacky and mind-blowing. And probably it's good not to get too attached to these experiences, because even the most interesting, wonderful, amazing, blissful experience doesn't last forever. And with a state like this, which has no boundary, and you feel really expansive, you feel really good, you might start craving that experience again and again, and you'll be disappointed when you don't get it and frustrated in your practice. So what I do when I have crazy experiences is I kind of like, okay, that was a bit out there, and then I just let it go. Because the experience itself might have some sort of information for me, but it's not something that I can cling to or hold on to. It's not something that happened because I made it happen. It was just something that naturally occurred, a process. Many people experience these kinds of things in their meditation practice. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean we're special, and it doesn't mean that we're enlightened, but the mind is interesting, the body is interesting, and it gets more interesting when you look at it. And so that's why we see these things when we take the time to look at our mind and body in meditation. I foster cats. Yay! If everyone in the world becomes a monk or a nun, who will look after the abandoned cats, dogs, birds, etc. out there? Good question. How to let it go? We cannot just abandon them, can we? You mentioned about meditation to let go. Yep. In reality, how to let go? Especially these poor animals. Bodhinyana Monastery has a stray cat called Spot. So it's not like becoming a monk or a nun means that you no longer care for animals. Santi Monastery in Sydney has a cat, and plenty of monasteries have cats and dogs as well. So it's not like becoming a monk or nun. You just kind of abandon any concern for other creatures. You care for them. The problem with a place like Bodhinyana is it's in the middle of all this pristine forest, so we can't just take everything in, because all the wildlife would end up getting killed. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, rescue the cat, kill the birds. But we have to let go of things with wisdom. If there are people relying upon us, or if there are animals relying upon us, don't let go. Let go at the right time. Don't let go at a moment when creatures are hungry. So give them food. It's fine, it's okay. You're doing good things, you're looking after animals, you're developing beautiful qualities of love, kindness, compassion, generosity, and that's good. So look after all the stray animals you can, look after all the stray humans you can, just look after everybody all the time, and that's what it means to let go. Letting go of your own needs sometimes and putting others ahead. Letting go of others' needs sometimes and putting yours ahead. So letting go skillfully. When I say let go at the beginning of the meditation practice, I'm just asking you to leave behind the world for this moment, for these few moments of meditation, so that you can have some peace here and now. When you go back home, yes, give the cats a cuddle from me. I find myself having difficulty sleeping at night. I find myself analysing my interactions, and sometimes thoughts of worry don't seem to go away. What strategies should I take apart of watching the thoughts arise? What strategy should I take apart from watching the thoughts arise? So you're having some restlessness at night. The strategies I would suggest is to relax the body. So to consciously relax the body to help you sleep. So this means just going through part by part, like we've done here on the retreat, or listening to a guided relaxation tape, or doing even a hypnosis kind of thing. I did that so many years ago. I did this guided hypnosis relaxation, and I can still remember deeper relax. And whenever I hear that, I relax. And this is why I suggest doing the same pattern each time we come to meditate, going through the concept of letting go, being here. You've heard me say the same things, here, now, nothing to do, nowhere to go, relaxed, calm, peaceful. Why? Because of the Russians. The Russians during the Cold War were doing some research into how they could use mind control. And one of the things that they discovered is that there's this incredible power in autosuggestion. So if you suggest to yourself, relax, you relax. And what they discovered was the more you engage in this habitual pattern of behavior, the deeper that practice goes in your mind. So that eventually, when you come to sit down and meditate here, and you start thinking, letting go, relaxing the body, instead of taking 10, 15 minutes for the body to become soft, it happens just like that, because you've trained the mind in this way. And so you can develop what they call good sleep hygiene in the same way by doing things like putting aside your device long before you go to bed, because there's all this bright light coming into your eyes and it confuses the brain. It's like, okay, we're awake now, we're awake, it's daytime. So put away your device and then have a little ritual before you go to bed, something that you do repeatedly so that the body knows, okay, it's bedtime now. And then relax the body somehow, relax the mind. And that's through that guided meditation, things like that. And usually that will help you. Also, try to sort out the problems that you have in your life during the day, not at night. Not really a meditation question, but is it possible for a Buddhist to be assertive? And how? Yes. I think it's good for Buddhists to be assertive. The Buddha said you should praise what is praiseworthy and condemn what is not praiseworthy. Otherwise, what are we going to do? What are we going to do in life? We've got all of these things happening around us. They affect us somehow. They affect other people. So if we care about ourselves, if we care about other people, it's okay to have boundaries. And it's okay to say, no, you're doing something which is hurtful. No, you're causing problems for me. It's okay. I think one of the problems that a lot of Buddhists have is this idea of really porous boundaries, of being really passive. And so that means that we think, oh, it's just my karma. Or I'm so detached, these things don't affect me, but it does. Or I'm just a vehicle for their loving kindness. And I call this spiritual bypassing. Have you ever heard this term? So it means we can engage in a lot of activities, ideas, approaches to our life that we label spiritual, but are actually not very useful. Sometimes it can be a way of not dealing with actual problems. So it means that if there's someone who's really annoying you in your life, sometimes you might have to say to them, look, this is a problem for me. Because we shouldn't be afraid of having difficult conversations if it comes from a place of good. If we're motivated by a desire to hurt someone, to shame them, to humiliate them, to cause problems, to start a fight, then that's not a good way to approach the situation. But if there's a real need for you to put a boundary in place, what this will do is allow you to have a safe place to develop your spiritual practice. So if you need a boundary in your life, then you're more likely to get a good spiritual practice if you're feeling safe and comfortable, if you are feeling welcome, if you're feeling okay, you're more likely to get a good spiritual practice than if you're feeling unsafe, uncomfortable, unhappy. Yeah? Does it make sense? So if you do have to be assertive, do it with a mind of kindness. And that mind of kindness is for you and also for them. So be kind to yourself. In our spiritual practice, sometimes we do need to put ourselves first. Otherwise, we're not able to help others. And this is that oxygen mask analogy. We need to look after ourselves first before we can put the oxygen mask on others. Otherwise, we can't help. So do look after yourself, but do it in a way that's skillful and kind.